Unfortunately, many of the most elite fighter planes ever built ended up in the trash. There were occasions when they were outscored in assessments by their competitors. Occasionally, these unfortunate fighters met their end due to bribery, intrigue, or poor fortune. Here is a mouth-watering selection of 10 fighters which didn't make it to the squadron service. At number 1, the Northrop YF23 Black Widow II. The YF23 was a sleek masterpiece, quite unlike anything else flying before or since. In the 1980s, the US Air Force began looking for a replacement for its fighter aircraft to more effectively counter the Soviet Union's advanced fighter jets. They teamed up with 2 companies to develop the Lockheed YF2 and the Northrop YF23. The YF23 was faster and stealthier than the YF22, but it wasn't flexible. It was also because the YF23 was bigger and harder to keep up. The YF22 was chosen as the winner after 4 years of testing and development, and the design went on to become the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. The 2 prototypes of the YF-23 are now on display in a museum. Number 2, the Boeing X36. The Boeing X36 tailless fighter was a fast, subscale prototype jet that was made to fly without a tail like most planes. The goal of this setup was to lower the ship's weight, drag, and radar cross-section while increasing its range, maneuverability, and ability to stay alive. The X-36 was only a quarter of the size of a normal fighter plane. It was controlled by a pilot in a virtual cabin on the ground, with a video camera in the plane's canopy giving them a view. It was easy for the X-36 to turn, which made it perfect for use as an attacker. As of 2017, there have been no news of any plans to further develop the X-36 or any designs based on it. At number 3, the Avro Canada CAF15 Arrow. The term Canadian superfighter sounds strange, yet it is what the CF-105 was. It would have been devastatingly effective at eliminating oncoming Soviet bombers given its speed, great range, and modern avionics. It was incredibly revolutionary and was the first fly-by-wire fighter flying with electric signal control as early as 1958. The world would not catch up with this technology until the teen fighters of the mid-1970s. The prototype was capable of Mach 2, but designs were underway for a Mach 3 derivative. The Arrow was to be a part of a massive, completely automated, integrated air defense system designed to safeguard Canada from its communist neighbor. At number 4, the AH56 Cheyenne. The Cobra attack helicopter was immensely successful in Vietnam, and the Army wanted to follow it up with something more survivable and suited to a potential fight with the Soviet Union. Compound helicopter, making it incredibly fast, over 200 knots. It had not 1 but 2 turreted cannons. The gunner's seat spun around to stay on target. It was also capable that the Air Force thought it might violate the post-war Key West Agreement prescribing Army attack airplanes. In the end, a crash during flight testing plus rising costs spelled the end of the Cheyenne. The AH56 Kamanche. Another helicopter, far more famous than the Cheyenne, it was a technological marvel of a different kind. The AH56 was a stealth helicopter with a low radar cross-section and infrared signature, capable of sneaking up on the enemy, performing air control missions, and designating targets for the Apache. The Kamanche, for its part, was a formidable opponent. Its stealth and armament may have caused significant damage to Soviet armored columns. Unfortunately, the aircraft would have strained the military's financial resources, and according to one estimate, if the Kamanche had entered service, it would have accounted for up to 80% of the Army's aviation budget. At number 6, the F20 Tiger Shark. What if you could get an aircraft that performed like an F-16 but cost 20% less to buy and was easier and cheaper to maintain? Furthermore, this aircraft could launch radar-guided missiles, which the F-16 at the time could not. That sounds like a pretty good ride, doesn't it? The aircraft was the F20 Tiger Shark, with more powerful engine and enhanced avionics. Northrop designed the Tiger Shark particularly for export sales, believing it would be an ideal fit for many air forces. Unfortunately, the lack of excitement for the aircraft from the foreign military sales program, along with the fact that no American force accepted the F-20, dashed any hopes for widespread deployment. At number 7, the Theault Mirage 4000. The Mirage 4000 was one of the first airplanes to use carbon fiber composites, and it was likely the first to have a fin composed of this sophisticated material. In an air-to-air loadout, its light structure and powerful engines resulted in a thrust-to-weight ratio that topped 1:1. On its 6th test flight, it reached 50,000 feet at Mach 2 in 3 minutes and 50 seconds. The 4000 would have been agile, long-range, and capable of carrying a large arsenal. The Mirage 4000 was unable to find a customer, which was a huge setback for Theault, as the company had privately funded its development. At number 8, the IAI Lavie. In the mid-1970s, Israel began work on an indigenous fighter bomber to replace aging fighters, and the development was aided by US technological assistance. The decision to develop the Lavie was controversial, both with the Israeli public due to the enormous associated costs, and particularly with the US government due to competition with American jets on the export market. By 1984, Israel, with a population of 4 million, had amongst the world's largest military expenditure, which was considered unsustainable. These issues contributed to the ultimate cancellation of the aircraft by the Israeli government during the flight test phase of development in August 1987. At number 9, the XP70 Valkyrie. The Valkyrie could cruise at Mach 3 at an altitude of 70,000 feet for an extended periods. With that kind of speed, it was thought that it could be well out of range by the time enemy interceptors could be launched, much less catch up to it. This seemed to be a great idea in 1955, when the requirement was developed. But even by 1959, the Air Force realized that new Soviet surface-to-air missiles made the idea of a high-altitude bomber obsolete. Bombers would need to fly low to avoid detection, and at low altitudes, the XP-70 was barely faster than the B-52 and carried fewer bombs. The program was greatly scaled back. The aircraft continued to perform as a research vehicle until 1969. At number 10, the Lockheed YF2. It was an American high-altitude interceptor prototype capable of Mach 3+. The interceptor was developed as a prospective successor for the United States superfast F-106 Delta Dart interceptor. The YF-12 underwent flying tests, but funding to put it into service was not forthcoming, owing to the pressing demands of the Vietnam War and other military priorities. During its lifetime, it set and maintained world records for speed and height of more than 2,000 miles per hour and 80,000 feet respectively. It is the world's most massive, heaviest, and fastest crewed interceptor. Following its retirement from the USAF, it briefly operated as a research aircraft for NASA, where it was utilized to create numerous key control enhancements for future supersonic aircraft. With this, we've come to the end of today's video, but stay tuned for more interesting videos from the Buzz. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.